right, so we are here for our weekly pregame media availability with head coach Willie Simmons for FIU football's contest against UConn this weekend. Coach will start us out with an opening statement, and then we'll open it up to the room for some questions.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to see you again. Obviously, coming off of a much-needed bye week, thought the guys maximized the time with getting back healthy. Got some guys that we think will get back this week, and got caught up academically a little bit and got to do some recruiting. So, productive bye week. Obviously, we've had a couple of good days of preparation, and we'll need it. It's a really good UConn team, and like I always say, we don't have to be perfect, but we have to play really good football. So, really looking forward to the challenge. Last non-conference game for us, but it's a game that if we can figure out a way to come out on top, it will go a long way in continuing to establish the culture and the expectations for this program. So, again, looking forward to the matchup, to go up to Connecticut, never been there before, and luckily we're playing them early where it's not freezing cold. So, but again, definitely look forward to a great matchup with two really good football teams.
Coach, what's the status of Brian Blades, and also how much do you need him in the secondary for what he provides?
Yeah, really optimistic about Brian. We'll get more sometime later today, so we'll know for sure what his availability is for this week. Doesn't have any pain, but just more so than anything, taking every precaution to make sure that we're not missing anything with him. But feels good right now, and we again feel optimistic that he'll be with us. And obviously, he is a valuable part of our defense and even special teams. You kind of see the drop off in special teams with him not being there as a gunner for us. But as one of our leaders, as one of our captains, he's the guy that we lean heavily on for all things, leadership, playmaking ability, and all that. So if he's available, really like our chances. They have one of the top receivers in all the Group of Five, really all of America, Skylar Bell, and having our top corner to match up against him would go a long way in helping us be successful. So keeping our fingers crossed, but hopefully we get a good word from our training staff today.
With the extra time, did you do a lot of self-scouting, and if so, what did you learn from that maybe you guys can do better?
Yeah, we definitely did some self-scouting, and saw some tendencies that we have on really in all three phases. And so really just trying to find some ways to window dress some things. Don't necessarily want to change per se, because these are things that we do well. We just do them a lot. And so you definitely want to give different presentations of how we run certain plays on offense, how we line up in certain defenses, some of the things we do on special teams well. And so that was really the biggest takeaway. Do we have the right personnel on the field at all times? And are we putting the guys in positions to be the most successful? And that's really what you look for in the self-scout. But a lot of great information. Our coaching staff on both sides, our off-the-field staff did an amazing job of really doing a deep dive into who we are as a program after 4 games. And so hopefully we can show some things on Saturday that we haven't shown on film, but still be able to run our base plays out of those formations. So that was the biggest takeaway from our self-scout.
I guess what's the status for Percy and
Juju won't go. He's still in his running progression. Change of direction is something that he hadn't done as much of yet. And obviously when you have 2 lower extremity injuries like he's had, you want to make sure that you have stability, not stability per se, but strength in your quad and your hamstring. Because typically what happens once the atrophy sets in and some of those things, and he's a big, powerful individual, so all that mass and force, with him changing directions, you want to make sure that he incorporates that in his running progression. So he's close. We're optimistic that we may be able to get him back for next week, going to the Western, but he'll be out this week. And Percy's been practicing since the bye week, so we feel really strongly that Percy will be able to go Saturday.
You mentioned him on the coach's show just now with Bell. Just what stands out about him, what makes him such a tough guy to face?
Yeah, he's a great route runner. Really understands leverage. Savvy route runner. You look at him on film, you're like, he doesn't look fast, so that's the most dangerous type. The guy that doesn't look fast, but you just see him separate from people, and so has deceptive speed. He does a really good job with body control, has a wide catch radius, and their quarterback looks for him. He's going to be first in their progression in most pass concepts. So really makes it challenging for you defensively to figure out whether you're going to bracket him, whether you're going to play star coverage on him, kind of put 2 people on him, and ask someone else to beat you. You know, he's been very, very productive this season, and so we definitely have to have a plan to try to neutralize him and not get beat by one person.
And then with their quarterback, I think it's 7th year in college football. Just what's the tough part of facing someone who's been playing for so long at this level?
There's not many things that you can throw at him that he hadn't seen, and so he's a veteran guy, very efficient. You know, he's played 4 games and hadn't turned the ball over. So takes care of the ball, does exactly what we ask our quarterbacks to do when we say drive the car. He's got good players around him, so he doesn't feel like he has to go out and win the game. You know, so he manages the game really well. He has a great understanding of their concepts, a great grasp of what they're doing offensively. And so you have to do a great job of making him uncomfortable, getting him off his spot, taking away his first progression, making him go to his second and third. And because if he can be in rhythm, he's going to carve you up. And so, again, we have our hands full this week with another veteran quarterback, much like a couple of weeks ago, that understands what they're trying to do offensively and can get the ball out of his hands before our defensive line and linebackers can get there.
Coach, 3 out of the first 4 games for FIU were at Pitbull Stadium. Now you're heading on the road for 2 straight games. The next game at Pitbull Stadium isn't until Vice night in late October. So just talk about how ready you feel this team is for a 2-game road trip that's longer than just 2 games.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think the mark of any great program is that you know how to play on the road. And so we try our best to keep the routine as mundane, so to speak, as possible. So how we travel, when we get to the hotel, our meeting schedule, meals, rest time, we try to do the same thing as if we're at home. And so the only difference is, you know, we're staying in another city. But we stay in hotels here when we're at home. We have our same meeting schedule and things of that nature. So you try to hopefully make sure the guys aren't out of their element, so to speak, when we go on the road. But you have to be prepared to take on all the challenges of an away game. Don't know what their visiting locker room is going to look like. Obviously, probably won't be Conference USA officials this weekend. You know, so the guys won't know our guys by first name basis. And so, but that's typical. You're going to play 6. Most teams are going to play 6 home games, 6 road games. And so, again, great teams know how to find a way to win on the road. And this team in the early stages of our growth as a program here, that's one of the things that we got to master. We have to learn how to go and play on the road. So we talked about it, not going to make a big deal about it, but our guys understand for us to achieve our goals, we got to learn how to play on the road.
Talk a bit about Alex Perry and his increased production in this past game against Delaware, 5 for 84 and a touchdown. Just talk about him getting more snaps and just how he stands out from the rest of the receiving.
Well, obviously, his size alone makes him a weapon. You know, he's over 6'4", over 200 pounds, runs well, has a wide catch radius, and he's versatile. He can play inside or outside. He mixes it up in the blocking game. So we have to be creative in finding ways to get him matched up, whether it's against a slot, against a safety, a nickel, and find ways to feature him in the pass game a little bit more. His conditioning level has gotten a ton better throughout training camp, throughout the first few games. So the Delaware game was really, I think, the first time we got to see a true glimpse of what he's able to do physically. And but for us to really get our passing game off the ground like we needed to, he's an integral part of that, probably the most important part of that outside of lights. And so I think you'll see a lot more targets for AP, and hopefully that equates to a lot more production.
Does it help at all when there are guys who have played over there at UConn before, like, you know, 23, a lot of players maybe on this team are already over there? Does that help at all with the road environment?
I mean, we'll find out. But whether we played at UConn or not, we played road games before. I think everyone here who's played college football, other than our true freshmen, who many of those guys aren't making the trip, have played college football in away venues. And so, again, it's like I said, half the teams in America this weekend are going to be playing on the road. So we're not unique in that regard that we got to go play in someone else's backyard. We just have to learn how to control what we can control. And that's our focus. That's our attention to detail. That's our energy level. We won't have the luxury of our home crowd behind us. You know, we're the villain this week, and so we'll have to come out to a raucous crowd cheering for the home team. You know, so we got to bring our own juice. We have to bring our own enthusiasm. And if we can do those things and then play sound quality football, I think we give ourselves a chance to go into a hostile environment and come away with a victory.
What have been your initial takeaways of the tight end room? I think all 4 of them have played at some point.
Yeah, we knew coming into the season that all 4 of those guys were capable of playing good snaps for us. So they've all caught passes. They all do a really good job in the blocking game. And so Coach Ponce does an amazing job with those guys. So we're just rolling them in. I don't ever look to see who's in the game. My play calls aren't dictated by which tight end's in the game. We feel like all 4 of those guys are capable of doing what we need them to do. So whether we're 11 personnel or 12, we have the luxury of having 4 big physical pass-catching tight ends that can set edges, that can block on the perimeter, and that can make contested catches. And that's what you really want to see from that group. So really happy with that group right now. That group and the running back group is playing really good football, consistent. Again, want to see a little bit more production from the quarterback and receiver room. And then the O-line, when they're on, I think they played extremely good football. We just got to match the intensity level of the defensive line that we're going to see. And this week we have another defensive line that's going to play with a lot of intensity. If our O-line matches that intensity, I think we'll be able to continue to create running lanes and protect lights.
You mentioned the quarterback and wide receiver. Just what were you able to take away from those first 4 games? Did you have to make any adjustments during the bye week to see if they could get that pass game going a little bit more?
I think it all starts with our practice habits, just the consistency of running routes full speed, of getting the timing down. We're like a lot of teams across America where we use the GPS technology to track our speeds and our mileage during practice. Too many times after practices, Coach Hickman has had to pull receivers afterwards to get our high-speed efforts in. And basically that's the GPS tracking how long you run at max velocity. And so, like I tell them all the time, as much as we run, a receiver should never have to get extra running after practice. So our volume is high. We're running a lot of mileage during practice, but we're not hitting high-speed efforts. So that means our receivers aren't running full speed. They're running, but they're not running full speed. And so obviously with a quarterback who needs to get his timing down with those guys, we have to run full-speed routes for Lights to see how far he needs to throw the post ball, right? What spot he needs to throw a dig route, and all the different things about passing the football. So I think it starts with our practice habits and being able to know when to practice full speed, because the ability is there. We have pass catchers. We got guys that can run routes, that can make contested catches. We just have to be more consistent in our operation. And I think our receivers have accepted that challenge this week, and hopefully that shows up in the production on Saturday.
After this game against UConn, FIU has another bye week. That's back-to-back bye weeks before and after this UConn game. What were your thoughts on that when you first found out about that? Would you have preferred one of those bye weeks to be maybe a little later on in the season?
Well, again, we're obviously taking it one game at a time, but we don't really look at it as a bye week. We start our midweek schedule. That's kind of how we look at it. And so it's a 10-day block, a 10-day stretch between games, which is not really a true bye week. To me, a bye week means that you go 14 days without playing games. And so we'll adjust our schedule as we need be, so that may give us an extra day of rest or two. But on a bye week, you're looking at probably 4 days of true rest to where you can really take the pads off, get back to some basic fundamentals, do all those things. We won't really be able to do that after this week's game. We'll maybe have another extra day of rest, get back, and obviously we'll be off on Sunday. Players may be off on Monday. But we're back to work on Tuesday, and we're on to the next opponent because we'll play a week from that day. And so, again, we don't really look at it as a true bye week. In our mind, we only get one bye week, and that was this past one. Every other break is a kind of 10-day window between games, and that's not a lot of time when you look at it overall. So, but again, we're going to try to maximize it as much as we can, like we do everything else. But we'll enjoy the rest. It's going to be a physical game on Saturday, and an extra day of rest and recovery for our guys. I think will go a long way in helping us get through the rest of the season, because after this week, this conference from here on out. So we want to be the healthiest team we can be going down the stretch.
Kind of touched on it there, talking about the receivers, but over this bye week, what have you and Coach Coleman been telling Lights as you kind of get to see the body of work now through his first few games in this offense?
Yeah, for him, it's just about trusting his eyes, having a thorough understanding of our concepts, what we're trying to do. The biggest thing that we've tried to take the next step with all of our players, not just Lights at quarterback, is really understanding the why. We have a good grasp of the what. When we call a play, guys know what to do, but it's the whys. Why are we calling this play? Why does this play work against this coverage? Why do we need to flip the protection against this front? All those different things. Defensively, why do we need to make this check versus this offensive personnel group in the formation? And so trying to get those guys to think like coaches and not just be robots on the field. So that's really what we've been working on with the whole team, but primarily with Lights, really getting him in kind of in my head. When I call this play in this situation, this is what we're looking for, all right? And if he can continue to grow in that regard, obviously we all know the talent's there. I think he'll be a little bit quicker with his throws, with his reads, a little bit more efficient, getting his completion percentage up, and really being the quarterback we need him to be, because in those critical downs, third down, red zone, that's when we need him to be at his best. And so if he can continue to grow and develop in that within this offense, he gives us a chance in every game.
How important was this true bye week for the recruiting side of things, going out there and watching those games?
Oh, no, it was definitely critical. We're in fierce recruiting battles. We got 20 guys committed, but, it's going to come down to the wire with probably all 20 of them. Thankfully for us, it's a gift and a curse. They're playing really good football. Those guys we have committed are playing really good football this fall. A lot of them are breaking records and having big-time games. But all that does is it draws attention from bigger schools. And so really for us to get out, really get some face time with these guys. A few of them have been to games this fall, but for us to be able to get to them, watch them play, sit down with their coaches, with their teachers, with their parents even, and reassure them that this is the right place for them was critical for us this past week. So we'll definitely need to continue to stay on the recruiting trail, keep hammering the 20 guys we have committed, but also keep a Rolodex of guys just in case, because again, it's going to be a fierce. This is a fierce recruiting cycle, and it's one of those weird deals where in the past you take official visits. That last official visit signing day is the next Wednesday. Now you do official visits in the summer. They don't sign until December. So you get guys committed to you in June really, and they can't sign on the dotted line until December. So you got 6 more months to kind of keep these guys. It's kind of like she accepts your wedding proposal, and you set the wedding date for 6 months down the line, and other boys are still calling her. You know what I'm saying? And some of them got way more money in their pockets and drive nicer cars than you drive. So, you got to find some ways to make her know that you're the best man for her, because they're coming, and they're coming from all angles. So it's a part of the recruiting game. It's one of those things you have to look forward to. But yeah, we have our hands full trying to keep off some pretty big fish for this recruiting class that we have that's currently ranked, one of the top ones in Conference USA.
I think Jose mentioned this on the coaches show yesterday, but the single transfer portal, just what are your thoughts on that? I don't know if it's official yet. But.
Yeah, it's something that we've all kind of pushed for. Football is unique in we were the only sport that had 2 portal windows, right? And so there are those out there that, want the players to have the ability to transfer as many times as they want to, and I'm all for players' rights too. But as a coach, for us to build our roster and to develop and to start developing your team, I think there has to be some hard guidelines as to when the roster can be set. And so the 1 portal window has seemed to work for every other sport. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for football because it's worked for every other sport. So once they set the dates, we'll all adjust our recruiting calendars, around that. It'll be tough for schools like us that start early January if the portal is during that portal window, because we won't be able to maximize the entire window. School for us starts, I think, January 5th, and if the portal window opens on the 2nd, that gives us about 7 or 8 days to really do the bulk of our recruiting, because once drop ad ends on the 10th, we're done. We can't bring any more guys in. So definitely means that we got to be ahead of the curve. We got to kind of identify some guys early that as soon as they hit the portal, we got to be up there with them and on the phone with them, because once it opens up on the 2nd, it's a free-for-all, and it's trying to rush to get guys on campus and get them admitted into school. So, but most of us, if you ask us as coaches, we're excited about the 1 portal window, and we'll see how it works out. But I'm sure there'll be some changes between now and in the finalizing of it.
But you still would have that under the 2 portals. You still have guys that after spring ball maybe are at another school or not playing, not happy with their playing time, and you'd have access to those people again.
Well, no. If they go to the 1 window in January, then that's the time they can enter it. After that, then it's done. So if you're with the team in spring and if you haven't entered the portal window, then you wouldn't fall under the one-time exception.
But currently you do.
Currently, because there's a post-spring window. So if you don't like your position, if you don't like whatever the case may be, the reason you want to leave, now you have an opportunity after spring ball to enter the transfer portal, and that 15-day window that we currently have. If they do away with that, then the only time that you can enter it is in that window from January 2nd to whenever they close it. Now, there will be some individuals that enter it and maybe don't sign anywhere in January, and they'll still be available after spring practice, and we'll still have access to those guys. But there won't be any new names that enter the portal after it closes, which for us at least gives us now a chance to say, okay, these are the guys that's in the portal, this is our pool, this is who we have to pull from. And we know which of our players are leaving and staying, right? We won't have another situation like we had this spring, but we go through spring practice, the guy establishes himself as a starter or backup, and then he leaves after 15 practices once he just got here. That's what we'll prevent, and that's what a lot of us as coaches was pushing for. You know, it's hard to have spring practice and go through 15 days and install and pay guys and all that, and then all of a sudden they leave again and they just got here and they didn't play the down for you. So I think the one window prevents that and just gives us a chance to start to build our rosters from January until football season, which for programs like us is very critical because we need to develop guys. We're a developmental program. We're not getting ready-made guys, so it'll help us to get them in January so we can develop them for 6, 7, 8 months before we have to depend on them in August.
All good. Second member of today's pregame media availability, Alex Perry, up at the mic before this week's game against UConn for FIU football. Alex, just an opening statement sort of about how the season's been going so far, and then I'll open it up to the room for some questions here, okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I think the season's been going not quite as perfect as we thought it would go, but not as bad as it could have went. I think one game got away from us, and the other game we played the number 2 team in the country to the like a great game at the first half, and it kind of got away from us at the end. And I think we had started a little slow last week. So other than that, I think the season's been going pretty well, and yeah.
Alex, a couple questions for you. What's the chemistry like with Lights, and how do you go about building that?
Yeah, the chemistry is good with Lights. It's going to build more and more throughout the season, the more games we get under our belt. I know the passing game hasn't been what we all expected it to be so far, but, you know, that's just coming with just a new system, and everybody's just getting used to the system. So I expect the next couple of games it will really flourish how it's supposed to.
And also, you're one of the older guys in the wide receiver room. How are you going about trying to lead the younger guys, and how's that going?
Yeah, just trying to lead by example mostly every day. Talking to the youngins in the room, like Eric Nelson, just some people, like they all have a chance to be really good, so just preparing them for when it's their time to know what to do when they're in my position.
I guess what would you credit to the pass game really haven't been getting it going these last couple?
Yeah, you can't really put your finger on it just yet. It's quarterback and wide receiver just being on the same page, you know, seeing the same coverages. Our run game's been really well, so a lot of the games we really haven't had to open up the passing game how we wanted it to. But yeah, I think that just comes with how the offense has been running and just us being on the same page.
How big for you was the double ream? I think it was a career high receiving yards. You had the receiving touchdown there at the end. So how big was it for you personally to get that type of game?
Yeah, it was big personally because you know I haven't been having like the greatest games the first 3 games, so it was good to finally have a game that I thought I should have been having. So it was good to finally get some relief in that sense. But yeah, it was nice to make some big plays for my team, even though unfortunately it didn't come with a W.
What stands out to you about UConn's defense?
Yeah, they just they got a lot of experienced players over there. They seem like they play really well together in like a close-knit type of defense. And we just have to be able to read coverages and stop their front 4 from getting to our quarterback.
Talk a bit so far this season how the running game has sort of complemented the passing game for big plays, maybe even the passing touchdown you had against Florida Atlantic. Just talk about what they've been able to do there.
Yeah, the run game's been able to set up big play action and just RPO plays. KJ is such like a big, I guess you can say, distraction for us when it's time to play action and do some things like that. So, you know, I love a good run game. I love what we've been doing in the run game. So, you know, I just think it complements one another when it is time to actually pass the ball.
And you're one of double-digit pass catchers so far this season for FIU. Just talk about that receiver room and how Kewan gets the ball out to as many receivers as they do, of course, including yourself.
Yeah, he does a good job of just taking the easy throws when they're there, so that results in a lot of different people, whether it be the running backs or the tight ends or different receivers, all getting the ball. So he does a good job of just playing on the fly and just hitting whoever's open, doesn't matter who they are.
For you personally, just how nice has it been being back down here in Florida, getting to play, for a team in this state?
Yeah, it's been fun just playing with my brothers again, just everybody that's already from down here. We all just have the same lingo and everything, so it's just like we're all just having fun playing football. My family's been able to come to the games, every game, so that's been nice to see one of their faces there, even just some of my friends that have made the drive down here. So, yeah, it's definitely a lot better in that sense.
Kind of in that vein, emotionally, when you get the win against FAU, you're a Florida guy, you know what that means. How did that kind of get you fired up? How did that resonate with you emotionally?
I wasn't prone, or I didn't know a lot about the rivalry before I got here. And then I found out how big it was. So just to be able to do that and help my team win a game like that I knew that was so important to them. It was big for me just to see everybody celebrate in the locker room and just know that we beat our rivals from across the town. So it's always good being your rivals, and, that's something that you can carry with you throughout the season for sure.
How much you hear now for all time, the first ever receiving touchdown in the Willie Simmons era belongs to Alex Perry. What does that do? What goes through your mind when you hear that?
Yeah, I'm just honored to just be able to start the foundation for what's going to come in the next couple of years. And whoever gets the most touchdowns with him here, or whatever that may be, I'm just happy to be able to, start the foundation of it and just let them know how it's supposed to be done.
How important was the bye week for you? Just kind of reset a little bit.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good just getting my body back. Just getting more in tune with the offense, cleaning up just little details that we think could be better. Just everything, just getting a reset after 4 weeks straight of football is always good. So.
When you got that first touchdown, what went through your mind emotionally? Was it relief? Because we hadn't had one yet? Was it joy? Hey, I scored. What kind of hit you emotionally?
Yeah, it was kind of a relief and joy, probably more relief, just because it was I think the third game of the season. So, yeah, that was just more relief than anything, just to finally get it out the way. And then it was also just a lot of happiness because it was against FAU, of course, and who wouldn't want to score a touchdown against FAU? So.
Any more questions for AP? All right, Coach Gilstrap, Coach of Safety, Special Teams Coordinator, for this week's pregame media availability for UConn. So, Coach, just kind of an opening statement about sort of both of your groups. I kind of consider the safeties and the special teams to be your group over the last 4 weeks, and then we'll open it up to the room for some questions.
I think right now the biggest thing is just growth. We got opportunity to play 4 really good opponents. We have really good opponents coming up, and I think at the end of the day, I think my responsibility from a safety standpoint, we got to get guys adjusted, and from a special team standpoint, we got to be the backbone of the team to make sure things get changed at critical moments, good or bad. And I think right now we look at our results. I think that shows. If we play good in those 2 units, we have pretty good success as a team. So I think that's my main focus with those guys. Like I said, coming out of the Delaware game, we had some ups and downs on both parts. Coming out of the FAU game, we have ups and downs on both parts. And I think the biggest thing right now is just allowing the group to grow, understand our responsibility to the team when it comes to being a safety. You're the last line of defense. Got to get guys lined up. And when we talk about the specialists or the special teams units, we got to make sure those are sacrificial plays for our team. And I think that's the biggest thing I've been trying to preach individually to the safeties and been trying to preach to the team when it comes from a special team standpoint.
Coach, a couple questions for you. First of all, with the safeties, you have a very young starting group back there. Going
Yes,
up
sir.
against a quarterback, 7th-year guy. What challenges does that bring for you to have such young players going up against a guy that's probably seen a lot of different things?
It's a big challenge. I was fortunate enough to play against UConn last year when I was at my previous job, and they do a really, really good job. He's a veteran guy. Schematically, they have little nicks and crannies within their simple scheme that he can maneuver and find guys from a passing concept and get those guys in the right check. It's NFL style system, and he's a veteran guy, so he can make all the checks. He can make all the throws. So we got to make sure we're clicking on all cylinders when it comes to defending the quarterback. They have 0 turnovers right now from a standpoint as a football team, and I think it shows because you have a veteran back there. So we got to make sure we capitalize off of just being lined up and being in the right spot so he doesn't take advantage of us not being lined up.
And then with special teams, what do you think has been the strength of your unit, and what do you think you still need to work on?
I think the strength's been speed. I think we are a very, very fast team. No matter who we put out there, I think we have depth and we have speed. But I think that's the biggest thing. And we got to work on just getting lined up and doing the right thing. You're talking about all our miscues on special teams been self-inflicted. It hasn't been anybody doing anything to us. It may look like that on tape, but it's technical. And we got to make sure that was a big component of the off week, and I hold myself accountable. We got to be better. We just can't have self-inflicted wounds. You go back and self-scout. When it's good, it's great. When it's bad, it can be bad. And I think that goes from learning new scheme, that goes from youth, that goes from us learning our team. But now through the bye week, we know what guys need to be where. When we banged up, who needs to be where. And I think the guys just taking pride in the units. That's going to be the main thing. And they have. They're a phenomenal group of kids. I just got to allow those guys to play fast.
Willie said after the Delaware game that you guys had to build up Trey's, confidence back up again. Just how do you do that now with the bye week you had and the preparation for you?
I think just going back to the basics. I let Trey have input. He's a quarterback of the punt team. So the biggest thing for me with him is that open communication. And when my nose knows, his yeses are yeses. He may open my brain up. I may open his brain up. And I think that's the biggest thing. We kind of had a quarterback to offense coordinator relationship when it comes to punt because we're going to move the block point around. We're going to go do different things. You're not going to know what we're going to do every week. Now, it's simple for us, but I think just allowing him to get back to who he is and punting the football. He punted the ball 50 yards, 2 kicks against Bethune. Just allowing him to do that. So that's the main thing.
What did you see on the punt return touchdown there? What went wrong? What did you see there against us?
It just was guys not being lined up. At the end of the day, we assumed it was a fair catch. And I have to do a better job of getting those guys the plays they need to see throughout the week. We assumed, and at the end of the day, I just got to do a better job of preparing those guys. But those kids they did a heck of a job all by week. At the end of the day, it's on me. I got to make sure it get cleaned up. And it just was technical things that we didn't do. Nothing from a physical standpoint. It was just all technical.
At what point, throughout either spring or fall, did you know you had 2 really good young safeties that were going to start in Shamir and Josiah?
To be honest, when we first got this job, Josiah McGrew, he was a question mark. You get a job, you don't know who you have in the room. You don't know if you want to go older. I'm not a big portal guy. I like to get guys homegrown, like develop them, like to build relationships. But in this new age, you got to adjust and go portal and things of that nature. But when we got this job, Coach Simmons presented Josiah McGrew. I had the other guys I was recruiting. I was like, let's see, Coach. I don't know. Then you do your research. It was the pedigree of the kid that I was attracted to more than the tape. It was more the pedigree, how he carried himself on his official visit. His dad and mom has another son playing at Georgia Tech that's a big-time player. His dad played NFL, played at Florida State. So it was the pedigree, how he carried himself, the questions he asked. And I knew that he would do. I said, at the end of the day, this kid's, we can't go wrong with him. I don't know if he'll play as a freshman. I don't know if he'll play soon, but I know he'll help us doing something when he gets here. And that's what I seen. And 90% of the time when you recruit guys like that, they end up being very special instantly when they get here because he knows how to operate, he knows how to communicate, he knows how to carry himself as a football player. But with Shamir Sterling, I kind of knew that the first day I seen him. Everybody kept throwing around, you got a safety, you got a young safety. When I get jobs, I've been fortunate enough to jump around a little bit. When I get jobs, I never watch tape of guys. I try to let my own evaluation, my own eye see guys because I've been fortunate enough to coach a lot of good safeties that's still playing at the highest level of football. So when I instantly seen Shamir, I was like, oh, this guy got something. And I knew what he was when I seen him. And I think he can be elite. He can be as good as he want to be. Shamir's biggest I guess, opponent is going to be, he don't need football. Shamir is a highly intelligent kid. He's a civil engineering student. He's a big-time Christian. Like, he plays football because he want to play football. I think the game needs Shamir more than Shamir needs this game. And I think when you have kids like that, they can be special. They can be really special. But I think we got a good group of safeties. But those two, they start traditionally. So, but I think those two they can be elite football players.
And how much does it help having, Websley, D-Hill, two guys with plenty of experience in there who are also getting a lot of reps?
To be honest, Webster and D-Hill are the leaders of the group at the end of the day. We have good culture because how Demetrius Hill carries himself every day. Unselfish, works every day. He asks questions like he's a coach. Like I always tell, I hired Demetrius Hill tomorrow just because how he carries himself, him and Webster. Those are the leaders of the group. Yeah, Shamir and Josiah out there. Josiah and Shamir make all the checks. But talk about how to carry yourself and who, when they say something in the room, who can guys look to is those two guys.
UConn has not blocked a kick yet. They have not blocked a punt yet. What do you have to make sure your special teams is ready for to make sure that continues?
I think at the end of the day, if you want to be honest, it's not UConn. We just got to get lined up and do our job, and we got to play fast. We are a fast football team. Okay, we might not be the biggest, might not have older guys, might not be the smartest right now because of the youth, but we are a fast football team. We got to know what we are. We're in South Florida, and to be honest, that's not always true with some South Florida teams. But with this football team, any Coach Simmons teams I've been on, speed is a main component. It's not about ability either. It's about process and just being able to play free because you feel like your coach not going to cuss you out because you do wrong. My coach going to congratulate me about my effort more than anything. I think that's what we have to do. They're going to be sound. They're not going to beat themselves. I've been fortunate enough to play against these guys before 2 times in my career. They're not going to beat themselves. Coach Moore does a really good job over there. But I think we just got to play fast and let the chips fall where they fall, but don't beat ourselves.
Robert Saramsha has been money with the point after touchdowns, 2 for 3 for field goals. Just talk about his production so far this season.
Rob's an amazing kid. He put the work in this summer. If you watch Rob's, I can be walking to Tropical Smoothie on the middle of campus. Rob's out there kicking, Or they may be calling us across campus like, hey, we got a student activity on the practice field, and it's because Rob's out there kicking. I think Rob's work ethic, he's worked himself to be whatever he wants to be. He loved the game, and I just like he just have character. And I think it's the work ethic aspect of it. It's just him and Noah, they sharpen each other. They always competing. I think that's the biggest thing that helps Rob. And Rob's answer was to work. It wasn't to come to my office and talk about it. It's like, all right, coach, let's compete. And I think that's why he's had success.
Do you think we'll have a chance of seeing Noah at any point this season, or is it pretty much the Robert show from here moving?
No, they both will kick. They both will kick. Each week it depends on when, it depends on spots and things of that nature. They have to compete every week. So if Noah go out and beat Rob out, Noah will kick. If Rob beat Noah out, Rob will kick. It's competition every day. I think, yeah, you got guys going to roll out there, but I think in this program you'll see a multitude of guys, just like y'all just talked about the receivers. You might talk about the safeties. We probably don't play 5 or 6 safeties this year. You got your guys that's out there the bulk of the time, but this is a competition-driven program, and it even goes to the kickers.
Talk about that competition in the game. How do you manage that rotation, right? Because like Delaware, we saw a good amount of webs. You got out there. So how do you kind of manage those guys during the course of the game?
Actually, it goes off of I have an analytical sheet I work off every week. People, if you work with me, everybody, they make fun of it. They say they ain't got all these numbers. So it's based off your practice. Every day's game day for me. So whoever practices best is going to play the best. Play the most. Now, when you get in the game, my process is all off a groove. So if a guy's hot, he's playing good, you get him going. I try not to throw guys in the game. Sometimes it may hurt me and have some hard conversations at the game, but I try not to throw guys in situations. Say a guys haven't played 2 quarters. They're doing new things. Guys already adjusted to it. You got to play off the floor of the game as a coach, but it's based off who practices the most and practices the best. And now, with the young guys, they may not practice the best sometimes, but by Wednesday, Thursday, they get it right. And Josiah McGrew did that in the beginning of the year. You see him now coming to practice on Tuesday. He looks like a vet when he goes out there. Him and Shamir struggled on every Tuesday was horrific. Now going Wednesday and Thursday, they were really, really good. So I think that's the biggest deal. Whoever practices the best, that's who's going to play the most. That's who I'm going to put in the game, but it's an adjustment throughout the game.
Any more questions for Coach Gilstrap? Media availability is Mr. Clark up at the podium. Mr. Just opening statement sort of about how you've been seeing things. Obviously, you've been playing a lot this year and playing really well. Just talk a little bit about that, and then we'll open up to the room for some questions.
Obviously I'm playing well, but I can't do nothing without all the defense, man. Everybody's flying around to the ball. We got a great defense. Pursuit angles is great. You know, I couldn't be myself without the rest of the defense. So.
Couple questions for you. Connecticut has a 7th-year quarterback. From what you've seen on film, what challenges that present somebody that has that much experience in the college game, especially your first year you're really playing?
Most importantly, it's nothing we haven't seen before. You know, we face quarterbacks that I feel that are better in my opinion, but we also work towards what we see, the cues and reads that we can benefit off of. So any little thing, whatever he give us, we benefit off of that. So.
You've seen, sounds like you've seen some flaws in his game. You've seen quarterbacks that are better. Where do you think you may be able to take advantage of this quarterback?
Most importantly, in the back end, you know, I feel like we definitely prepare ourselves better than we did last week. So we hope to have more turnovers this week. That's our word this week, turnovers.
I think you were hurt last year. What was that like? And then obviously just building back to where you are now, where you play almost every day.
Yeah, I definitely had a little ACL injury, but you know, I bounced back well from it. You know, I couldn't do it without, you know, my teammates, faith, and obviously the training room. But you know, I just kept my head high. You know, kept praying, and over time I got better. You know, just had to build my confidence back up. That's all.
How big was that first career interception for you?
Oh, it was big, man. It was definitely I felt amazing. It's like everything I would have dreamed of. Everything slowed down for me, so it was very good.
You mentioned, how's Gator been for you? You know, in your time here, obviously, in a time of uncertainty where you don't know what's going to happen with the head coaching job, he stays around and you stuck around with him.
You know, I think I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be the player that I am today without Gator. You know, he pushes us every day to be better. You know, we have a certain standard, and every day we got to come and reach our standard. Unless if the next man does it, then the next man plays. So it kind of pushes us each and every day to be the better person that we are.
How would you say you and the defense did against Delaware's quarterback being a dual threat guy? Now you're taking on Fagnano, who is not really a dual threat type quarterback. Just what are your thoughts on that?
Last week, you know, we definitely had some self-inflicted wounds. You know, it wasn't necessarily what they were doing. It was mostly what we were doing. We weren't paying attention to our keys. So we had some little slip-ups, but it's nothing we haven't seen before. You know, it was all on our behalf, you know, so.
You mentioned forcing turnovers. Fagnano has not thrown an interception yet this season. How badly do either you or the rest of the secondary really want to make sure that you're going to be the first one to get that pick off of him?
Yeah, well, we always come out thinking that we have to get a turnover. Any which way, if there's a punch-out, interception, any way we could get a turnover. But we're definitely pushing to be the first to make him turn the ball over.
Although it does seem like Deuce is going to play, just how important is it for you guys to really step up when he's out? You know, you guys probably having to face a wide receiver one or whatever it may be there in that sense.
Yeah, you know, Blaze is coming back this week, so, you know, I'm very excited about that. Most importantly, when he's out, you know, I feel like I got to do a better leadership role, so, you know, I step up. You know, it's other guys that step up too, but, you know, I feel like I can do a little more, so that's something I intend to do going forward.
How much have you leaned on Deuce from like a learning standpoint? Because he's been out there obviously a lot. He even played some nickel this year, so you get that one-to-one. How much have you kind of talked with him?
Me and Blaze talk every day. It's like one of those, you know, I never got too much pride to ask questions, you know. So the things I lack in, I'm quick to ask him because he probably know, and it's vice versa.
How important would you say this bye week was for you to rest and recuperate the secondary as well to get ready for this 2-game road trip?
Yeah, this bye week was definitely important. We, you know, coming off that loss, we had some very major mistakes, but this week we definitely got in tune to it, and we focused on what we needed to focus on.
I think that Penn State game was really the first time we got to see Mr. Clark at his full potential here at FIU. Did that game feel different for you? You're like, okay, now I'm able to do what I want to do?
You know, after a while I got going, it was like it felt like practice a little bit, you know, because I definitely pushed myself in practice to be the best person I can and best player I can. So, you know, I feel like we was clicking on all cylinders and we was definitely communicating. So as long as we do that, you know what I'm saying, you'll see a lot more defense of our defense like that.
Any more questions for Mister? All right.